Hello and welcome back to Bookish English. I am Ariel, and tonight I want to tell you something that took me years to fully understand. The English book you already own, the one sitting quietly on your shelf right now, has the power to change how you think, how you speak, and how you feel inside your own English mind. It is not the book that is broken. It is not your English that is broken. It is the way you were taught to read it. And in the next 90 warm minutes, I am going to give you a small, warm method that will turn any English book you touch into something that will change your entire English life. Please stay with me all the way to the end, because what I am about to give you is one of the deepest and warmest gifts I have ever put into a video, and I truly believe it will change you. There is a quiet truth about books that almost nobody has ever told you, and I want to tell it to you tonight. Every English book you have ever picked up, every English book sitting on your shelf right now, every English book you have started and put down and felt small about, every single one of them has the power to change how you think. Not just how you speak, not just how you write, how you actually think, inside your own head, in the quiet moments of your own life. Any book, any single book, if you read it the right way. Most English learners in the world do not know this. They pick up a book, they struggle through the first 10 pages, they look up 20 words in a dictionary, they get tired, and they put the book down. And they think the problem is the book, or they think the problem is their English. But the real problem is that nobody has ever taught them how to actually read an English book in a way that changes them. So they read for information, the way they were taught in school, and the book gives them small information, and then it ends, and nothing really changes inside them. The book was a passing visitor, not a small, warm friend who moved in and stayed forever. Tonight, I want to teach you a different way, a warm way, a slow way, a way that turns any small English book into something that will genuinely, deeply, permanently change how you think about the world, how you think about yourself, and how you think in English itself. It is not a magic trick. It is not a shortcut. It is a real method, refined over many warm years of watching what actually works for learners exactly like you. And by the end of this video, you will know how to open a small English book tomorrow morning and read it in a way that will make it live inside you forever. I am Ariel, and this is Bookish English, and I want to sit with you tonight, warmly, for about 90 minutes, and give you something that no English teacher has ever given you before. A real, slow, deep, warm reading method. Not a speed reading trick, not a vocabulary hack. Something much slower and much more valuable. A way of reading that will genuinely change your English, your thinking, and your inner life, all at the same time. Please, please stay with me all the way to the end. Please, please. Get yourself comfortable before we begin. Pour yourself a warm cup of tea or hot chocolate if you like. Sit somewhere soft and quiet, where the world outside cannot easily reach you. If you have a small English book near you right now, please bring it close, because we may use it in a small, warm way later in this video. If you do not have one yet, that is completely fine. I will help you choose one at the end. And when you are ready, we will begin together, gently, at exactly the pace your quiet reading heart needs. Please, please, stay warm with me. Please, please, do not rush ahead. Let me first tell you honestly why most English learners read books in a way that does not change them. Because if you can see the small mistake clearly, you can stop making it, starting tonight. The main mistake that almost every learner makes is this. They read too fast. They think that reading a book is about getting to the end. So they push themselves through the pages, forcing their eyes forward, skipping the sentences they do not fully understand, and racing to the last page as though there is a prize waiting there. This is how they were taught to read in school. Read the chapter, answer the questions, move to the next chapter, faster, faster, faster. It is a school habit that hurts adult learners for the rest of their lives unless somebody warmly untaught them. Here is the truth. English books do not change you when you read fast. English books change you when you read slow, very slow, warmly slow, so slow that a single beautiful sentence can hold you for 2 whole minutes, while you feel every word land inside you. So slow that a single small paragraph can teach you more real English than a whole textbook chapter. So slow that reading 3 pages in one warm evening feels like a real accomplishment, and going back to reread those same 3 pages the next evening feels like coming home to a warm friend, not like failing to make progress. If you have been reading English books fast and feeling small because you never seem to finish them, please listen to me carefully. You do not need to finish them. You need to live with them. That small shift, from finishing to living with, is the beginning of everything that follows in this video. The second mistake most learners make is that they treat reading as a solo eye activity. Their eyes move across the page, their mouth stays closed, their voice stays silent, their pen stays still, their body is passive, only their eyes are working. This is how school taught them, because school did not want 30 children reading out loud at the same time in a classroom. But you are not in school anymore. You are alone in your small, warm room with a small English book in your hands, and there is nobody to be embarrassed in front of. You can use your voice, you can use your pen, you can use your whole warm body, and when you do, reading changes from a small, quiet eye activity into something that reshapes your entire English brain, slowly, warmly, over weeks and months. The third mistake, and this is the deepest one, is that most learners read for information. They open a book and try to remember what happens in the story, or what facts the writer is teaching, so they can tell somebody about it later, or so they can pass some invisible test. This is not reading. This is data collection. And data collection almost never changes anybody. What changes people is a completely different kind of reading, where you let the book sit inside you and quietly rearrange the small furniture of your inner world. You do not read for facts. You read for feeling. You read for small, warm moments of recognition. You read for the small sentences that suddenly explain something you have felt your whole life but never had words for. That kind of reading changes you deeply, and it also gives you the deepest English fluency you can ever build. Because when a book changes you, the words of that book become part of who you are, forever. Please, please hold on to these 3 ideas as we go forward. Read slow, not fast. Use your whole body, not just your eyes. Read for feeling, not for information. These 3 small shifts are the foundation of everything I am about to teach you. Say them with me, warmly, one time. Slow, not fast. Whole body, not just eyes. Feeling, not information. Now you. Slow, not fast. Whole body, not just eyes. Feeling, not information. One more time, softly. Slow, not fast. Whole body, not just eyes. Feeling, not information. Beautiful. That is your compass for the whole method. Now let me walk you through the warm reading method itself, step by step, in a way that you can start using tomorrow morning with any English book on your shelf, or any English book you buy this week, or any English book you can borrow from a small, quiet library nearby. The first small ritual happens before you even open the book. And this is the ritual that most learners never do, and that changes everything about the reading experience that follows. Before you open the book, Please sit somewhere warm and quiet. Turn off the notifications on your phone. Put the phone in another room if you can. Pour yourself a small warm drink. Set the drink beside you, on a small warm cloth or a small warm coaster. Sit up straight but comfortable. Take 3 slow breaths warmly. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your back against the chair. Feel the small warmth of the drink beside you. Look at the cover of the book for a small moment, warmly, the way you might look at the face of a friend before you begin a conversation. And then, only then, when your whole body is calm and warm and ready, open the book. This small ritual takes maybe 2 minutes. And most learners will read this and think, "This is silly, I do not need this." Please, please do it anyway. Because this small ritual quietly signals to your brain that reading is not a small task to rush through. Reading is a small warm ceremony, a small warm meeting between you and the book, and everything that happens after depends on the warm state you enter with. Rushed brains cannot absorb English deeply. Calm, warm brains absorb English so deeply that the words become part of who you are. The 2 minutes of ritual are the doorway to the deep learning. Please, please do not skip them. Let me tell you a small, warm, honest thing about the ritual, because I want you to fully understand why it works. The human brain has 2 very different modes of paying attention. There is a fast, shallow mode, which we use all day for small things like reading messages, scrolling through the news, and quickly answering small work questions. And there is a slow, deep mode, which we use only occasionally, and which is where all deep learning actually happens. Most modern life keeps us stuck in the fast, shallow mode, all day, every day. And when you try to read a book in the fast, shallow mode, your brain does not absorb the words deeply. The words pass through you, like water through a small hand. But when you enter the slow, deep mode first, words settle inside you like small, warm seeds that will grow for years. That is why the ritual matters. Not because it is magical, because it is the small, warm door between the shallow mode and the deep mode, and you cannot access the deep mode without walking through some kind of door. Please, please, please honor the ritual, even if it feels awkward at first, even if you feel silly. In 2 weeks, the ritual will feel like the most warm and grounding 2 minutes of your entire day. And you will not want to read any other way. Once the book is open, the next small skill is how you meet a sentence. And this is where the whole method really begins to live. Please listen carefully, because this is the small, warm heart of everything. When you meet a sentence in an English book, please do not just read it once with your eyes and move on. Please meet the sentence the way you would meet a small, warm friend at a small, warm cafe. You take your time. You look at their face. You listen carefully. You ask small, warm questions. You feel the small warmth of their presence. You do not rush. Here is exactly what to do. When you meet a new sentence, first read it silently with your eyes, warmly, at your own slow pace. Then read the same sentence again, out loud, softly, in your warm reading voice, even in a whisper if you must. But please, please use your voice, because your voice is one of the deepest teachers your brain has, and reading out loud engages parts of your brain that silent reading cannot reach. Say the sentence warmly, one time, at a comfortable pace. Feel how your mouth shapes the words. Feel how the sounds land in your ears. Now, here is the small, clever piece. Ask yourself one small, warm question about the sentence. Not, did I understand every word? That is a school question, and it will make you feel small. Ask instead a warmer question. Ask, how does this sentence make me feel? Or ask, does this sentence remind me of anything in my own life? Or ask, What small picture appears in my mind when I read this? These warm questions turn reading from information gathering into small, warm inner conversation. And it is the inner conversation, not the information, that changes your English forever. Let me show you what this looks like with a small imaginary sentence. Imagine you are reading a small, warm English book, and you come across the sentence, "Sarah walked slowly along the quiet river in the soft evening light." A school-taught reader would read this once, understand it, and move on. But a warm reader like you, using this method, would read it silently, then read it out loud once, warmly, in a small whisper. And then you would ask, "How does this sentence make me feel?" Maybe you would notice that it makes you feel a small, warm calmness in your chest. Maybe it reminds you of a small, quiet walk you took last spring by a small river near your home. Maybe you can see the soft evening light in your mind, and you can almost feel the warmth of it on your imagined face. All of this takes maybe 40 seconds, but in those 40 seconds, the sentence has moved from the page into your heart, and it will stay there, warmly, for the rest of your life. That is the whole magic of reading this way. One warm sentence, met warmly, becomes a small permanent piece of your inner English world. And after 2 months of reading in this warm way, you will have collected hundreds of these small permanent English pieces, and they will begin to talk to each other inside you. And your English will slowly, quietly, deeply change from something you learned into something you live inside. Please say the small, warm question with me now, warmly. How does this sentence make me feel? One more time, softly. How does this sentence make me feel? Please, please hold this small, warm question close. It will be your most important tool from tonight onward. Let me give you 2 more small, warm questions you can ask a sentence, so you have a small, warm set of tools to work with. The second warm question is, what does this sentence remind me of in my own life? This question is beautiful because it connects the English book directly to your own real memories, and connected memory is deeper than isolated memory. When a sentence in the book reminds you of a small warm moment from your own past, your brain quietly links the English words to that memory, and now the English words live inside your memory forever, warmly and permanently. Please try this warm question the next time you read. Say it with me now. What does this sentence remind me of in my own life? Now you. What does this sentence remind me of in my own life? Beautiful. The third warm question is, what small picture appears in my mind when I read this? This question activates the visual part of your brain, which is one of the strongest memory systems you have. When you can see a small, warm picture in your mind for every warm sentence you meet, the sentence lives inside your visual memory, not just your language memory. And visual memory is often more permanent than language memory. So please try this warm question too. Say it with me now. What small picture appears in my mind when I read this? Beautiful. 3 warm questions. How does this sentence make me feel? What does it remind me of in my own life? What small picture appears in my mind? Please, please, please keep these 3 small warm questions close as you read. Ask them of every warm sentence that touches you, and your reading will become deeper than any reading you have ever done in your life. Now, the next piece of the method is the small notebook. And I know some learners will hear the word notebook and immediately think, I do not want to do homework while I read. Please, please listen to me carefully. The notebook I am about to describe is not homework. It is a small warm space for you to have a small warm conversation with the book while you read it. It is a small warm inner room that you build slowly, over the weeks, as you read. And by the end of any small English book, your small warm notebook will hold something more valuable than the book itself, because it will hold your own small warm heart's response to the book. And that response is the thing that will change you. Here is how the small notebook works. Please buy a small, quiet notebook this week if you do not already have one. It should be small enough to carry with you, but big enough to write in warmly. Any small notebook will do. Please, please do not spend an hour choosing the perfect one. Any small, warm notebook is perfect. Every time you sit down to read, please open the notebook beside the book. And every time you meet a sentence that touches you warmly, please copy it into the notebook, in your own handwriting, warmly and slowly. Not every sentence, just the small ones that touch you. Maybe 2 or 3 sentences per reading session. Maybe 5 if the reading is especially warm that day. Please do not try to copy everything. That would be exhausting and would ruin the warm feeling. Just the sentences that make you feel something small. Below each sentence you copy, please write one small warm line in your own English. It can be anything. This reminds me of my grandmother. This is exactly how I felt last winter. I want to remember this forever. I do not know why, but this sentence made me cry a little. Any small warm response, in your own English, in your own words, even if your English is not perfect, even if you make small grammar mistakes, please, please write it anyway, because this small warm response is the sound of your own inner English voice waking up, and every small response you write is a small step toward being able to think in English fluently, warmly, and deeply. After 30 days of reading warmly with your small notebook beside you, please pick up the notebook one Sunday afternoon and read it from the very beginning. Do not read the book, read the notebook. And what you will find inside those pages will surprise you deeply. You will find a small collection of warm English sentences from another writer, followed by your own warm English responses. And when you read them together, you will discover that a small, warm conversation has been happening between you and the book, secretly, quietly, over 30 warm evenings. And that conversation is the truest, deepest form of language learning that exists in the world. Please, please do not skip the notebook step. It is one of the deepest secrets of the whole method. And it takes only a few small minutes per reading session. 2 or 3 copied sentences, plus 2 or 3 small warm responses in your own English. That is it. That is enough. Over 30 days, that small warm habit will build something inside you that no textbook, no course, no method video can ever build for you. Because it is yours, in your own handwriting, from your own heart, and it will belong to you forever. Say the small idea with me warmly. I write my own warm response beside every sentence that touches me. Now you. I write my own warm response beside every sentence that touches me. One more time, softly. I write my own warm response beside every sentence that touches me. Beautiful. That is your small notebook promise from tonight forward. Let me tell you a small, warm, honest thing about the notebook, because it will save you from a small, warm mistake many learners make. Please, please do not worry if your small, warm English responses are simple. Please do not worry if they use small, warm words. Please do not worry if they are grammatically imperfect. The notebook is not a small, warm test. The notebook is a small, warm, private conversation between you and the book, and nobody else will ever read it unless you show them. So please, please write your small, warm responses in whatever English you have, right now, tonight, at your current warm level. Even one small, simple sentence is enough. This made me feel warm. This reminded me of my grandmother. I liked this. Please, please, please do not wait until your English is better to start writing in the notebook. The notebook is what will make your English better. So please, please begin at your current warm level and trust that your English will slowly, warmly, deeply grow through the small, warm act of writing itself. Now, let me talk about the piece of the method that most learners skip completely, and that changes everything if you actually do it. Reading out loud. Yes, I know we talked about it a small bit already with the single sentence, but I want to go deeper now because reading out loud is where a book stops being a small paper object and starts becoming a real warm experience inside your body. Please, please, please read parts of every English book out loud, warmly and slowly, as though you were reading it to a small, warm friend. Not the whole book, that would be exhausting, but small paragraphs, small warm passages, small pieces that felt especially beautiful when you read them silently. Please go back and read them out loud, at your own slow pace, in your own warm voice, with all the small warm feelings you had when you read them silently. This does something almost magical to your English. When you read a sentence silently, your brain uses one set of small English pathways. When you read the same sentence out loud, your brain uses several sets of small English pathways at the same time. Your visual pathway, your speaking pathway, your listening pathway, because your ears hear your own voice. Your emotional pathway, because reading out loud activates the small feeling centers of your brain more strongly than silent reading does. All four pathways working together on the same warm sentence, at the same warm moment. This is why a paragraph read warmly out loud lives in your memory for years, while a paragraph read silently often fades within days. Please try this tonight, if you can. Pick up any small English book, open it to any small page. Read one paragraph silently to yourself first, warmly. Then read the same paragraph out loud, warmly and slowly, as though you were reading it to a small, warm friend sitting across from you. Feel the difference. Feel how the words become fuller, warmer, more real. Feel how the sentences suddenly have small, warm music inside them. That difference is the whole reason we read out loud. And if you build a small, warm habit of reading 5 or 10 minutes out loud every evening, from any English book, your English will change in ways you cannot yet imagine. Say the small, warm idea with me, warmly. I will read out loud every evening, warmly, at my own slow pace. Now you. I will read out loud every evening, warmly, at my own slow pace. One more time, softly. I will read out loud every evening, warmly, at my own slow pace. Beautiful. Please, please do this. It is one of the most warmly life-changing habits any English learner can build, and almost nobody does it, because nobody has ever told them to. Let me tell you a small, warm secret about reading out loud that many learners never discover. When you read out loud, warmly and slowly, you begin to hear the music of English. Every language has music. Every language has small warm rhythms, small warm rises and falls, small warm patterns that native speakers hear from the moment they are born. But learners often miss this music completely because they only ever read English silently, and silent reading does not carry the music. The music only comes alive when you read out loud. And once you start hearing the music, your English speaking begins to change too, because your mouth naturally begins to copy the rhythms and warm patterns you have been hearing. So reading out loud is not just about the words, it is about learning the music of English, warmly, one small paragraph at a time. Please, please keep this in mind. It is one of the deepest gifts of the whole method. There is one more small warm tip I want to give you about reading out loud, because it will change how you experience it. Please, please do not try to read fast when you read out loud. This is the mistake almost every learner makes. They read out loud, but they read too quickly, in a small, nervous rush, as if the sentence is a small warm test they must finish. Please, please do the opposite. Read out loud even slower than you would read silently. Give every warm word its full warm weight. Give every small warm sentence its full warm breath. If a sentence takes you 15 seconds to read out loud, that is beautiful. If it takes you 20 seconds, even better. The slower you read out loud, the deeper the sentence lives in you. Please, please, please resist the urge to rush. Slow, warm reading out loud is one of the most quietly powerful practices in the entire English learning world. Now I want to give you the one small question that changes every book. This is the question that separates learners who read many books and change slowly from learners who read one book warmly and change deeply. Please listen carefully, because this small question is the whole secret behind why some readers become fluent English speakers over years and other readers stay stuck, no matter how many books they finish. The one question is this: what is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? Please read that small question again with me, warmly. What is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? Now you. What is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? One more time, softly. What is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? Every good English book, no matter how small or simple, is quietly saying something to you about your own life. A children's story about a small, brave rabbit is quietly saying something about your own courage. A gentle novel about a young woman in London is quietly saying something about your own longings. A small, warm essay about the changing seasons is quietly saying something about your own small, warm passing time. Every book, every single one, has a small, warm, private message hidden inside it, meant just for you, meant for the specific moment of your life when you happen to be reading it. Most readers never hear the message because they never ask the question. But when you ask the question, warmly and honestly, before every reading session, the book begins to speak to you directly. And that is when the book stops being a book and becomes a small, warm teacher inside your inner life. Please, 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 ask this small question every single time you sit down to read. Ask it out loud if you can, in a small, warm whisper, before you even open the book. What is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? Then open the book. Then read warmly and slowly, using everything else in this method. And at the end of the reading session, ask the question one more time. What did this book quietly say to me about my own life today? Write your small, warm answer in your notebook. Even one small, warm sentence. And do this every day, for the whole time you are living with the book. At the end of 30 days, your small notebook will hold 30 small, warm answers to this one question. And when you read those 30 answers together, you will discover that the book has been slowly, quietly, deeply changing your relationship with your own life. Not just your English, your whole warm inner world. That is why the right English book, read in the right warm way, will change how you think. Because the book asks you a small question every day, and you answer honestly, and slowly the answers begin to reshape who you are. I want to spend a small warm moment on the idea of living with a book for 30 days. Because this is a completely different way of reading than most learners have ever tried, and I want you to understand what it feels like from the inside. Living with a book for 30 days means choosing one small English book and only reading that one book for the whole month. Not 5 books, not 3 books, one book. You read it slowly, warmly, with your small notebook beside you, using everything in this method, for 30 warm evenings in a row. You do not rush to finish it. If you finish it early, you go back to the beginning and read it again. If you do not finish it in 30 days, that is completely fine. You are not trying to finish. You are trying to live with the book. This idea sounds strange to most English learners because they have been trained to think that reading many books is better than reading one book deeply. This is not true. It is a school habit, and it does not build fluency. Living with one small, warm book for 30 days, using the method I have just described, will change your English more deeply than reading 10 different books in the same 30 days. Because depth beats width every single time in language learning. When you live with a book for 30 days, small warm things start to happen. The characters in the book start feeling like real friends. The setting of the book starts feeling like a real place you have visited. The small, warm sentences from the book start appearing in your own head during the day, without you trying to remember them. You start dreaming small, warm dreams that borrow the language of the book. You catch yourself using phrases from the book in your own small English self-talk. The book has moved inside you, and it has begun to become part of who you are. Please, please try this even once. Choose one small English book this week. Live with it for 30 warm days. Read it warmly and slowly, using the whole method. Keep your small notebook beside you. Ask the small warm question every evening. Read out loud every evening. Copy warm sentences into your notebook every evening. Write your own warm responses every evening. And at the end of 30 days, please come back to this video and leave a small warm comment about what happened, because I promise you, something will have happened. And I want to hear about it. Let me tell you the small warm truth about why living with one book beats reading many. Every English book is like a small warm country. When you visit a country for one day, you see the small warm surface. You see the small warm airport, the small warm street, the small warm cafe near your hotel. But you do not know the country. You do not feel it. You do not carry it with you when you leave. When you visit a country for 30 warm days, you begin to feel it. You know the small warm shopkeeper by name. You know which small warm street has the best morning light. You know the small warm sound of the church bells at 7. You have been changed by the country, warmly and permanently, even if you cannot yet say how. That is what living with a book for 30 days does. You do not just visit the book, you live inside it, and you come out changed, warmly and forever. Please, 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 choose the deeper way. Choose to live with one warm book instead of visiting many books. Your English will thank you. Your inner life will thank you. And when you eventually finish your first warm 30-day book, you will look back and realize that this single warm book taught you more real English than the last 3 years of scattered reading combined. That is not a promise. That is a small warm fact I have watched again and again in many warm learners over many warm years. Now there is a small warm secret in this method that almost nobody talks about, and I want to give it to you honestly, because it is one of the most quietly powerful pieces of the whole thing. The secret is rereading. Yes, rereading the same book, not moving on to the next book after you finish, going back to the beginning and reading the same warm book again. I know this sounds strange. I know most learners feel that if they have already read a book once, they should not read it again. This feeling is wrong. It is a school habit, and it prevents deep language learning from ever happening. Here is the truth. The first reading of a warm English book gives you about 20% of what the book has to offer. You are still figuring out the small, warm world of the book. You are meeting the characters. You are learning the small, warm rhythm of the writer's voice. Your brain is doing a lot of small, warm work just orienting itself. So you cannot absorb everything on the first read. Nobody can, not even native speakers. The second reading is where the deep work begins. Now you already know the story, so your brain does not need to work as hard on the plot. Now you know the characters, so your brain does not need to work as hard on remembering who is who. All that freed up small, warm brain space becomes available for the small, warm details. The beautiful sentences you missed the first time. The small, quiet moments that had no room to land the first time. The small, warm patterns of the writer's voice that only reveal themselves on the second warm meeting. The second reading is where the book truly enters you. The third reading, if you dare, is where the book becomes part of you forever. The small, warm sentences start feeling like your own. The small, warm world of the book feels like a place you have lived in. The small, warm voice of the writer feels like a friend whose voice you have known for years. And the small, warm changes that the book has been quietly making inside you become permanent, unmistakable, and yours. So please, 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 once you have finished a warm English book, do not immediately move on to the next one. Go back to the beginning. Read it again, warmly and slowly, using the whole method. Keep a fresh, small notebook page for the second reading. Ask the small, warm question again. Read out loud again. You will be shocked at how many small, warm things you missed the first time. And your English will grow more from the second reading than from the first, because the second reading is where the deep learning finally happens. Say the small, warm truth with me, warmly. Rereading is deeper than reading. One more time, softly. Rereading is deeper than reading. Beautiful. Please, please, please remember this small truth. It will save you from the exhausting habit of always chasing the next book, and it will teach you the deeper habit of living with one warm book long enough to be changed by it. There is a small, warm, honest truth about rereading that I want to share with you because I think it will help you trust the practice. Every warm English writer I have ever spoken with, and every warm English teacher I have ever worked with, agrees on one small thing. The books that changed their lives were not the books they read once. They were the books they read many times. Some warm writers reread the same beloved book every year for their entire lives, and they say that each rereading reveals something new. Some warm teachers keep a small warm shelf of books they have read 5 or 10 times, and those books have become like small warm friends who have grown up alongside them. This is what a real deep reading life looks like. Not a big long shelf of books read once and forgotten. A small warm shelf of books read many times and loved deeply. Please, please choose the small warm shelf. Choose the deep road. Choose to be someone whose English grows from rereading warm books, not from chasing many new ones. Now, before I tell you which books I would choose for you, I want to tell you a small, warm, true story about a woman named Sarah, whose life was quietly changed by one small English book read in this warm way. Please listen carefully, because her story is a real picture of what this method can do if you decide to use it. Sarah moved to London from another country when she was 28 to work in a small design agency near Camden. Her English was okay on paper. She could pass any test. But her spoken English felt stiff, and her written English felt cold, and her inner English felt almost silent. She had studied English for over a decade, and yet she felt like she was still standing on the small, quiet edge of the English world, never really entering it warmly. She had tried many things. She had watched hundreds of English videos. She had taken courses. She had joined a small conversation group. Nothing had really moved her needle. Her English had been the same, quietly, for years. She was slowly beginning to believe that fluency was simply not for her. One warm Saturday afternoon in October, She walked into a small, quiet bookshop in Bloomsbury, one of the small London neighborhoods she loved most. It was raining outside. She had no plan. She just wanted to be in a small, warm, dry place with old books. She walked past the shelves slowly, warmly, letting her fingers touch the small spines, and a small, warm book stopped her. It was a small novel, written by an English writer she had never heard of. The cover was simple, just a small, warm painting of a garden and a small dog. She picked it up. She read the first page, and something small settled in her chest. She bought the book. She took it home, and that evening, she decided to try something new. She decided to live with the book for 30 days. For 30 warm evenings in a row, Sarah sat in her small warm armchair by the window in her North London flat, and she read the small book slowly. She poured herself a small warm cup of tea before every reading session. She did the small warm ritual. She read every sentence carefully. She read many paragraphs out loud, warmly, in her soft evening voice. She kept a small notebook beside her, and every evening she copied 2 or 3 warm sentences into it, and then she wrote her own small warm response to each one. She asked the small warm question every evening: what is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? For the first week, nothing dramatic happened. She simply enjoyed the small warm ritual. But by the middle of the second week, small warm things started shifting inside her. She noticed that during her workday at the design agency, small warm sentences from the book would appear in her head, in English, without her trying. She noticed that when her colleague James asked her a small question at the coffee machine, her answer came out warmer and more thoughtful than usual. She noticed that when her friend Emma called her on a Sunday afternoon, she found herself telling small, warm stories in English that she would not have known how to tell a month before. She also noticed something even quieter and even more warm. Her inner voice, the small, quiet voice that lived inside her head all day, had begun to speak in English. Not all the time, not perfectly, but warmly and often, and without her trying. When she was walking to the small tube station in the morning, her inner voice would describe the small, warm details of the street in English. When she was making tea in her small, warm kitchen, her inner voice would gently narrate the small, warm act of pouring the water. When she was falling asleep in her small, warm bed, her inner voice would replay a small, warm sentence from the book, over and over, in a small, warm whisper. Her English was moving inside her, quietly, deeply, without any effort at all. It was moving because the small, warm book had opened a small, warm door, and English was walking through that door and settling into the small, warm inner rooms of her life. By the end of the 30 days, Sarah had finished the small book. She sat with her small notebook and read it from the very beginning. And when she reached the last page, she cried, quietly and warmly, because she could see, in her own handwriting, a small warm English self who had been quietly growing over 30 warm evenings while she thought nothing was happening. Her small warm responses had gotten longer over the month. Her English had gotten warmer. Her thoughts had gotten deeper. The book had quietly changed her. But here is the small warm piece of the story I want you to hear most carefully. Sarah did not move on to a new book. She went back to page 1, and she read the same small book again over the next 30 days. And in the second reading, everything I described earlier came true. The small, warm details she had missed the first time filled her heart. The characters felt like friends. The writer's voice felt like a warm inner companion. And by the end of the second 30 days, Sarah's English was different in a way she could actually feel. Not just measure, feel. 6 months later, Sarah had read the same small book 3 warm times, and her English had transformed in a way that no course, no class, no video had ever managed to move it in the previous 10 years. She could think in English warmly. She could speak in English gently. She could write in English with small, warm depth. She had entered the English world warmly and fully, all from one small warm book, met warmly, over 90 warm evenings of her real life. That can be you, not by finding a magical book. There is no magical book. Any book met warmly will do this. That can be you by choosing one small warm book this week and using this method and living with it for 30 warm evenings, and then rereading it, and then rereading it again. That warm, slow path is the deepest, warmest, most reliable path to real English fluency and real English thinking that I know of. It has changed thousands of learners, and it can change you too if you decide to begin. Now, let me tell you which books I would gently choose for you if I were sitting next to you at a small warm cafe in Camden with a small warm cup of tea between us. Because I know some learners will hear this method and think, I do not know which book to choose. Please, please do not let that small worry stop you. Almost any warm, small English book will work. But if you want a gentle nudge toward the kinds of books that suit this method best, here are the small, warm categories I would recommend. First, please consider small, warm children's chapter books written for English-speaking children. Do not feel small about this. These books are actually where some of the most beautiful English writing lives. They are written in warm, simple language that beginners can genuinely follow. They contain small, warm stories that will move you in real ways, and their sentences are short and clean, which makes them perfect for the warm reading method. Some warm choices include the small, warm stories of Winnie the Pooh, the small, warm world of the Wind in the Willows, or the small, warm adventures of Paddington. Any of these will teach you more real, warm, natural English than most textbooks written for adults. Second, please consider small, warm, graded readers. These are English books specially written for language learners, using a small, warm, limited vocabulary. Many small, warm, classic English novels have been rewritten as graded readers, and reading these warm versions is a beautiful, gentle way to enter the English literary world without feeling overwhelmed. Look for graded readers at your English level. Any small, warm one will do. Third, please consider small, warm, modern novels written in simple language. Some contemporary English writers write in small, warm sentences that are beautifully accessible to intermediate learners. Look for small, warm novels that other English learners have recommended online. Small, warm reviews from other learners are more useful than reviews from native critics because other learners know what small, warm books are actually readable at your level. Fourth, and this is a small, warm secret, please consider small, warm poetry books. Poetry is often shorter and warmer than prose, and each small, warm poem can be lived with for a whole warm evening. A small, warm poem, read slowly out loud, warmly, with a small, warm notebook beside you, can teach you more real English than a whole small novel. Please do not be afraid of poetry. Small, warm poems are gifts. Fifth, please consider small, warm essay collections. Warm essays about ordinary life, about food, about walking, about small, warm moments are perfect for this method. They are short, they are warm, they are conversational, and they teach you the small, warm patterns of natural English writing in a way that novels sometimes do not. Please, please do not spend 3 weeks choosing the perfect book. Choose any small, warm book that feels right in your hand. Any small warm one. Any small warm book met warmly with this method will change you. The book is not the important part. The method is the important part. Please, please, please remember this. Do not wait for the perfect book. Start with any book. Start this week. If you are still unsure, please choose the smallest, warmest, gentlest book you can find. A small book will feel less scary than a big one. A warm, gentle story will feel less demanding than a serious literary novel. And a book you can hold in one hand will feel more inviting than a book that takes up your whole small, warm shelf. Please, please, please choose small. Please choose gentle. Please choose warm. The right, small, warm, gentle book will feel right in your hand from the very first moment, and you will know it is your book because your small, warm heart will quietly say yes. Before I say goodbye tonight, I want to leave you with 3 small, warm truths that I hope will stay with you for the rest of your English reading life. Because I want to protect you from the small, warm mistakes that quietly ruin most learners' reading practice over the years. The first truth is that slow reading is real reading. Please, please, please stop feeling small about how slow you read. Slow reading is not weak reading. Slow reading is deep reading. Slow reading is the only reading that actually changes you. Fast readers finish more books. Slow readers become different people. Please choose to become a different person. It is the warmer, deeper path. The second truth is that one book, read warmly, is worth more than 10 books read fast. Please, please resist the school habit of counting how many books you have finished. That is not a real measure of your English growth. The real measure is how deeply the small, warm books you have read have entered you. If one warm book has changed your English forever, and another learner has finished 10 books that they cannot remember 3 months later, you are winning. You are on the deeper path. Please, please hold this truth close on the days when you feel slow. The third truth is that reading is a warm, quiet act of self-love. When you sit down with a small English book, in a small warm chair, with a small warm cup, and you read slowly and warmly and out loud, and with a small warm notebook, you are giving yourself a small warm gift that most adults in the world never give themselves. You are choosing depth over speed. You are choosing warmth over efficiency. You are choosing the small, quiet ceremony of real reading over the loud rush of modern life. And every warm evening you spend this way is a small, warm act of caring for your own inner life, which almost nobody in your world is caring for on your behalf. Please, please, please keep giving yourself this warm gift. It is one of the most warmly self-loving things you can do. Here is what I would love for you to do tonight, before you close this video. First, please look at your bookshelf, or open a small warm bookshop website, or think about a small warm library near you. Please choose one small warm English book to live with for the next 30 days. Any book. Please do not spend more than 10 minutes choosing. Any small warm book will do. Second, please buy or find a small warm notebook. Just one. It does not need to be fancy. It just needs to be a small, warm, quiet space where your small, warm inner English voice can begin to appear. Third, please, 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 tomorrow evening, sit down with your small, warm book and your small, warm notebook and your small, warm cup of tea. Do the small, warm ritual. Read slowly. Read out loud. Copy 2 or 3 warm sentences into your notebook. Write your own small warm response. Ask the small warm question. What is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? Answer it warmly. And then close the book gently and go to bed. Fourth, please repeat this every single evening for 30 days. Even on tired days. Even on busy days. Even for just 10 warm minutes. Because 30 warm evenings with one small warm book will change your English more than 300 fast hours with many books ever could. My comment task for you today is a small warm one. In the comments below, please write the name of one small English book you would like to live with for the next 30 warm days. Any book. It can be a book you already own, a book you are going to buy this week, a book you have been meaning to read for years. Just the name of one small warm book in the comments from your quiet reading heart, and I will read it, and I will smile, and I will feel proud of you for beginning. And other learners will read your comment, and maybe they will choose that same book too. And a small, warm, invisible reading community will form in this warm, quiet corner of the internet. Please, please add your book to it. If this video helped you today, please give it a warm, gentle like, because it truly helps this small channel grow, and it helps more warm, slow learners find this video, which they might need more than they know. Please subscribe to Bookish English, and please turn on the bell, because every week I share more of this warm, honest work with you, and your quiet inner reading life deserves every gentle piece of help I can offer. Thank you so much for staying with me for a whole video about the small, quiet art of reading English deeply. This is not the flashiest topic. This is not the loudest promise. But it is one of the deepest, warmest, most life-changing skills a real English learner can build for themselves. And you spent your warm, precious evening here with me tonight, learning it, sentence by sentence, all the way to the end. That says something quietly beautiful about you. You are serious about your inner life. You are willing to trust slow, warm growth over flashy, fast promises. And that willingness is exactly what will carry you all the way to the fluent, warm, deeply at home English speaker you are quietly becoming. Please remember the 3 ideas at the heart of the method. Slow, not fast. Whole body, not just eyes. Feeling, not information. Please remember the small, warm question that changes every book. What is this book quietly saying to me about my own life? Please remember the small notebook, the small ritual, the small warm reading out loud, the small warm rereading, and please, 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 choose your one small warm book this week and begin your 30 warm evenings tomorrow night. Because tomorrow night is the doorway to a small, warm, new inner English life, and it is waiting for you, warmly, if you decide to walk through it. Take care of yourself, my warm friend. Choose your small, warm book. Buy your small, warm cup of tea. Sit in your small, warm chair and read slowly, warmly, out loud, with your whole warm heart, tomorrow evening and every warm evening after that. And please, 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 be gentle with yourself when the small, warm doubts come. They will come. They come to every learner. Please just breathe warmly, take a small sip of your warm tea, and read one more small warm sentence. And I, Ariel, will see you very soon, right here on Bookish English, in the next warm lesson. Goodbye for now, my warm friend, and please, please come back in 30 days and tell me what happened. Because I promise you, something will have happened. Something small, something warm, something quietly life-changing. And I want to be here, warmly waiting, to hear about it, whenever you are ready to tell me. See you soon, and please, please sleep gently tonight, holding your small, warm book close, ready for the beautiful, warm, slow reading journey that begins tomorrow evening. There is one more small, warm thing I want to say before I truly let you go, because I think it will stay with you if I say it now. Books are one of the last small, warm, slow things left in the modern world. Everything else has become fast. Videos are fast. Messages are fast. Meals are fast. Even friendships are becoming fast. But a book, met warmly, is still slow. It still asks you to sit quietly. It still asks you to turn small paper pages with your fingers. It still asks you to give it your full warm attention without any small notifications interrupting. Reading a book warmly, in this warm, slow method, is one of the last small, warm ways to remember what deep human attention actually feels like. And in a world that has forgotten how to pay warm, slow attention to anything, choosing to read a small, warm English book for 30 warm evenings is a small, quiet act of rebellion against everything fast and shallow. It is you saying, I choose to be a warm, slow, deep human. I choose to be changed by small, warm books. I choose the deeper English road. Please, please, please choose that road. It is worth every warm, slow minute. One more small, warm thing. When you begin this reading journey tomorrow evening, you will feel a small, warm doubt at some point, probably in the first week. You will wonder if this is really working. You will wonder if you should be moving faster, reading more, doing something more efficient with your English time. Please, please, please ignore that small, warm doubt. It is the voice of the fast world, trying to pull you back into the shallow current. The deep current is quieter, and it flows more slowly, but it is going somewhere the shallow current can never reach. Please stay in the deep current. Please trust the slow, warm method. Please read your small, warm book warmly for 30 warm evenings, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because at the end of the 30 days, something warm and beautiful will have happened, quietly, in the small, warm inner rooms of your English mind. And you will be so glad that you stayed. The last small, warm thing I want to give you tonight is a small, warm blessing for the small, warm reading journey that begins tomorrow. May your small, warm chair hold you gently. May your small, warm cup of tea stay warm through the whole reading session. May your small, warm book open to just the right page every evening. May your small, warm notebook fill up with small, warm sentences that make you feel deeply. May the small, warm question guide you gently toward small, warm truths about your own life. May your small, warm, out-loud voice grow warmer and more fluent every evening. And may the small, warm book you choose become, in 90 warm evenings, the small, warm friend who quietly changed how you think, how you speak, and how you live inside English forever. Sleep gently tonight, my warm friend. Dream about your small, warm book. Wake up tomorrow ready to begin. And please, please, please come back to this video again and again whenever you feel yourself losing the small, warm, slow rhythm. I will always be here, waiting warmly, ready to remind you why this method matters, and ready to walk the deep, warm, slow road with you, one warm sentence at a time. See you very soon, and please, please, please begin tomorrow. I truly believe your English life is about to change.